Hi guys, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful Christmas present ornament. It measures about 2 by 2 inches and it's a beautiful little square decorated by a ribbon and bow. It also has a beautiful loop, or very easy to make loop, so you can hang it from your Christmas tree or wreath or garland. I will also show you how to adapt the pattern so you can make it in a slightly different shape, but also give it a different finish by creating more of a lid compared to the square edge. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you'll need is your yarn and your corresponding hook. Here I'm using mercerized cotton yarn from Sheepiest Katona and a size 3 hook. I always think that bright sort of vibrant colors are best for that sort of project. However, choose whatever works for your Christmas tree, for your own decor, for the festive season. So let's get started. So first we will make the main body of the ornament, and that is made up from a series of squares, so 6 of these squares that are then assembled all together using the single crochet stitch. So to start with that, let's take our yarn and you'll make a loop as usual, and it's all worked in a single crochet stitch, so that makes it a great beginner friendly project. So you'll chain 11 chains, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there we are. And as always with a single crochet stitch, you will start in the second chain from hook, so not here but here. So put your hook in the middle of the chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, yarn over, pull through both loops. Again, through the chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through both loops. And you'll continue in this way along the chain for a total of 10 single crochet stitches. And if you would like, you can also have a look at my single crochet stitch tutorial, which really goes through the technique in a much more detailed fashion. However, you're also welcome to just slow down the speed of this video if you prefer. So here we are almost at the end of our piece, and that should be our 10th single crochet stitch. So let's check. Yeah, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. And now since we're at the end, we're just going to chain 1, turn our piece, and again continue doing a row of single crochet stitches along our piece. So you'll need another 10 single crochet stitches, and you're going to repeat this until you have a total of 11 rows. So easy to remember, chain 11 and work 11 rows with 10 stitches per row. So I'm going to continue building up this piece and meet you once I'm at the 11th row so we can finish this up together. So here we are. We've done 10 completed rows of single crochet, and here we are on the 11th row. So we will just continue along our piece and complete a total of single crochet stitches for this last row. And you can see it's a perfect square, so it will look really good on our ornament. And at this point, I want you to create a rather big tail here of about 30 to 34 inches. And the reason for that is that we're going to use this long tail to single crochet along our edges. So rather than have you kind of weave in those ends and then get a new piece of yarn, let's use this one and make our lives slightly easier. So get about 30 to 32 inches. That should be more than enough for me. And cut your yarn there And to secure your piece here, you can do one more chain and pull your yarn through it, and then you can secure it. There we go, like this. And so make a total of 4 of these pieces, and I've already done another 3 here. And now I will show you how we can connect all of these guys. And they are slightly curling here, but that will be okay. But essentially what we will do is we will connect the pieces all around here, and we will do it in a way so that the backs of our single crochet stitches and the fronts match up so that your present can look even more neat, its finish. And then we'll get on to making the top and the bottom. So take 2 pieces. Let me take these 2 for example. And you'll see I've made them so that both have long ends. And obviously what you want to do is make sure these don't really these are not on the same side, but try and keep them on the opposite ends. And what you'll do is you'll have to decide which side will be the front of your crochet stitch and which one will be the back one. I'm going to go for this. So the front of my single crochet stitch will be right here. And so I want to repeat that on the other side afterwards, which I'll show you how we can do it. And what we will do is we will place a single crochet stitch on each of these rows. So you should have around 11 single crochet stitches along this side. So put your crochet hook here, which is the top stitch you've made, the last row rather. There we go. Yarn over, pull it through both pieces, go slowly for that first one, and here chain 1 to secure it. And now your piece of yarn is secure, and as you can see there's no other ends because we've used the same piece of yarn. So do 1 single crochet along the lines here, 3, 4, 5. Let's fix this here because our yarn wasn't cut perfectly. You want to make this edge as neat as possible so that your present looks beautifully sewn together. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, and here in this last one that is almost invisible, 11. There we go. So here you see this front piece is on this side, so I want to emulate the same on the other side. And if you have excess yarn, you can cut that out as well at the end, but keep it for the moment, just in case. So that means that when I'm sewing my piece, I will need to hold it like this as well. So turn this around, and this should be facing you, this beautiful kind of edge here. Take this other piece and pull it aside. You can also, we already have an edge here. So we'll have to change things a bit here. If this happens, for example, and your piece on this side, the long tail is on the wrong side of where you want it, just take a darning needle and pull it up the side, and this way you don't need to faff around too much. Let me just find my own darning needle, which is right here, and I'll show you how to do it. And this is why I asked for like an excess, a few extra inches to be placed on that piece of string, because that means that if this happens to you, you haven't wasted your yarn and you don't need to do too much extra. So here you see I'm just pulling it up, and what I try and do is not kind of mess with the stitches, but just go up and by going through the yarn, through the piece, but without kind of dividing the stitches, or, you know, for example here I would normally put my crochet hook under those two bits. I'm not gonna go with my needle like this, because that's just gonna make it harder for me to do the crochet, the single crochet stitch afterwards. So just try and avoid kind of piercing through the edge of the stitches that you will then use to single crochet. So here we are, and that's it here. Cool. So here we are, and now we can actually do our single crochet stitch. And this little piece of yarn, I'm not going to weave it in just yet. I'm going to try and see how my piece comes together, and I will probably try to just hide it inside the present rather than have to weave in the stitch, the extra piece of yarn. So with our yarn here, all I need to do is take another piece. Sorry, here it's getting a bit tangled. Make sure that the long piece of yarn that you have here is on the other side, so that you can use it for the other edge. And then take your needle, just easier, and just make sure your thread goes on the top. Let's see if you can see here, on the top stitch of the other side, so you can pull it through with your hook. So that's perfect. So what we will do now is we're gonna put our hook through that same top row where our extra thread came from. Just make sure you find the right place so that you don't miss a row. There you go. Let's swap through one piece, and here you can tell it's going through this. And we'll just repeat the same process, just yarn over and pull the yarn through the other piece, chain one to secure it, and then go through it again and do a single crochet stitch. And then we will just repeat the same process, just down this side, placing 11 stitches, making sure you put your hook through both sides, both pieces, so you're holding them securely together. And just try and do an equal number of single crochets across the sides so your piece looks symmetrical. Like I said, for me the easiest thing is to do as many single crochet stitches as you have rows. So here we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 now. 9 through here. 10. Oops. 10. And our last one here, 11. And one more chain, oops. And then we do our last chain one to make sure that our piece is secure. So that's what I meant before when I said just make sure that you single crochet from the same side, because now you see this beautiful edge is facing the same part of your present, so it will look symmetrical. Otherwise you might end up having one piece that has this side here, and then the other side, rather than being the same, might be this side. If you don't mind that, no problem. I like things to be as symmetrical as possible, so this is why I took care to have both sides of my present look symmetrical, look the same, just to give it a more finished look. But you don't need to worry too much about it. It's just something I like to do to make sure that my piece looks good. So I'll continue joining these in the same way, and I'll meet you once our little square is done, or the sides of it are done, because essentially all I need to do is repeat the same process for here. And then once I've done that, once I've sewn both of these sides with my crochet hook, I'm going to come back to show you how we do the bottom and the top. So once you've sewn all the pieces together, it should look something like this. And then all you need to do is make sure that all your ends are on the inside of your present and very well secured. So what I like to do is go through some of the stitches here on the very edge, and then just go through on the inside just to tighten everything together. Let me show you also on camera. So here, for example, this, I will put my darning needle, take my darning needle and go through here just to close it off a bit. And again, always underneath the stitches, because I will need to use those afterwards. But here on the inside, and then I know that this is not gonna come outside and bother me, and that just means that if I've secured it very well, I also don't need to weave in practically any ends, which is a great characteristic for any project. So again, this is the rest of the yarn that I used to sew the pieces together here. So I'll go on the top of this bit here, take it here, take it in, and take in this part as well. That's kind of the two closest stitches. Just go through in here again. And again, don't worry if there is a slight gap on the top. Here, for example, I might just go once more in between the stitches with my darning needle, and just to secure everything the way I like it. However, don't worry too much, because when we do our tops and bottoms, we will make sure that everything is kind of held together very nicely by doing stitches also on the sides. So don't worry too much about it, but just try and make it as neat as you can. It doesn't need to be perfect at this point by any means. So here looks quite good to me. So I will just put this yarn just inside so that it doesn't bother me. And I'll do the same for these two again, so that everything is kind of inside and secure and it's not going to pop out. And then what I'll do is I'll make a further square like we did this. So chain 11, do 10 single crochet stitches across and do that for 11 rows. And once you've completed that, join me again so that I can show you how you can attach your bottom, the bottom of your piece to the rest of it, and then how we're going to stabilize it, fill it up, and then do the top and repeat that process for that one. So see you in a bit. So here I have my fifth little square, just made just like the other ones, 10 single crochet stitches, 11 rows. And what I will do is, with the yarn still attached, I will put single crochet stitches all along its edges and secure it with the single crochet stitches to the square that we created before. So it looks a bit fiddly, but actually it's quite straightforward. So let's give this a go. So put your hook through that first stitch on whichever side you want to go through. Right? Yarn over, pull through, and pull through to sort of stabilize it. It's almost like a slip stitch, and then go through the same space and do a single crochet stitch. And you'll see here that you are connecting it on this piece essentially, and this has 10 stitches. So what you'll do is, to keep it accurate across, or to keep it consistent across all 4 sides that you'll be stitching it together, you'll use these stitches here to guide you in terms of where you need to place your stitches on these sides. So you will make 10 stitches and then 10 on the other side and 10 on the other side, but also add one here. So I'll show you exactly what I mean in this just now as we go along. So we've done one single crochet stitch, and then we turn our piece a bit so that we can see which is the second stitch that we need to go through. So that's the second one. This is the third one. So I hope you can see here how I'm doing it. So hopefully that will be our 9th stitch. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, and that will be our 10th stitch here at the very edge. So, and then we also want to make sure that there are no gaps with this little edge that we've created. We want the corners to be neat as well. So here, what you're going to do is, first of all, make sure that any sort of stranded yarns, pieces of yarn, are all on the inside. So you kind of, you know, the way you stitch around, you secure them on the inside, so they're not gonna bother you. And then what I like to do is turn my piece around, take the top stitch from when you single crocheted across the sides, and place a little single crochet stitch here, and try to keep that one quite tight because you want it to secure your piece on that edge. And then place another 10 single crochet stitches on this side as well. And you're just going to continue along this way all around your piece. So here I've just finished all my edges, and you can see it's looking quite nice. So I've done 10 single crochets here. I've captured the edge and then done 10. So I need to do the same here. So here I'm going to take the first single crochet well, this one of the first ones here on the side, and then what I need to do is slip stitch into that first single crochet. Let's see if I can make sure that the camera captures this right for you. Slip stitch into that first single crochet stitch that I did before, just to give, you know, to finish off the piece. And again, this might have been, you know, may have been a bit tight with my yarn, but you can just use your nail to get it through, and just be careful that you don't split the yarn. Let's see if the second try is a bit better. It's okay. There we go. And here, cut your yarn after you've done one chain to secure it. That's it. And then you'll just take your darning needle and hopefully you're able to then take this little piece and put it on the inside. And again, you'll see on this inside we have a number of loose pieces of yarn. This won't matter much because this is just going to get stuffed, so you might as well just leave them there as long as they've all been sort of secured. So here we are now. We've made our sixth little square, And you'll see what I've done here is I've just cut some pieces of cardboard. They're not exactly square pieces, but pretty much. And they're just a bit smaller than 2 by 2 inches, I would say closer to 1.5. And you don't need them again to be perfect squares, but cut about 5 of these pieces so that you can line the bottom like this and the sides of your present. And again, this is optional, but I do find that it helps create much neater edges, and then your stuffing isn't you know, coming out from the sides and kind of distorting the shape of your present. I think that just makes it slightly more robust, and it gives it a nice edge. And then what you're going to want to do is fill this up. And like I said, I have tons of little pieces of yarn from older projects that I'm not using, even from the one that I'm, you know, cutting out small things here and there. So just use whatever you have on hand. Don't feel the need to go out and get stuffing for this. I'm just gonna continue putting things in, and you don't need to overfill it at this point, but just get a bit of an idea of how much you'll need. Okay, so once you're happy with how this is looking, and again, I don't want it to be bulging on top because obviously I want it to be nice and neat, what you'll need to do is take your extra little square. And again, this is 10 stitches or 10 single crochets. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11 rows. And we're going to anchor it. We're going to sew it together using single crochet stitches in exactly the same way as we did before. The only difference is that in one of the corners of your choosing, we'll just create a little loop. And again, you can make the loop as big or as small as you want it to be. But I'm just going to show you how to go about and do that. So just like before, go to the first stitch, pull your yarn through, and then go through that first row, that same first stitch, and do a nice single crochet. Again, the first one will always be just a bit tricky because you're trying to get it started. But there we go. And again, remember, you're using the stitches from these sides here, which are all going to be 10, to guide you in terms of how many stitches to place on top, so that it's symmetrical. Again, it's not going to matter terribly if you have one extra or one less, but if you want to make the finished piece as you know, symmetrical as possible, then I do suggest that you sort of follow this rule of thumb. It's just going to make things look really, really pretty at the end. And you can always lift your piece like that just to check how it's going, especially on that first side, since it's easy. So go to the next one here. So here we have 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've got another 2 to go. And just like before, once you've reached the edge, make sure this extra piece of yarn is tucked underneath. Do one single crochet here on the side, and make sure it's a tight one as well, as much as possible, to give a nice finished edge. And then just start the process again here on the sides. And you'll see it's slightly more fiddly, simply because it's a more bulky item now. You've got the yarn inside, but also you've got the carton, so it's not as easy to manipulate, but just take your time and go ahead and do it. And I think what I will do in the next corner that I reach is I will put my loop there. So I'm to show you how it's done. Here I'm on my last stitch again, so that's this one here. And so I've reached the end of my piece again. So what I'll do is, again, I will go to the side here and do a single crochet stitch. But now I will chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to make a loop, and I'll go back the same place and do another single crochet stitch to secure my loop. There you go. And once you've done that, you will continue along the lines until here and finish up like we did the very bottom of our piece. So I'll meet you once that's done so we can get started on the ribbon and the bow.